13 degrees in Newark. I was shooting the other day in Newark, Jersey. Delroy Lindo.
So before we get started, I just want to say this, that when Denzel graciously agreed to do this, the word that I got was, he never does this. He never does this kind of
Never
thing.
had before.
And this is a testament to the fact that we go back as friends and as fellow students at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco in a few years back.
48 years.
There you go. So I appreciate it, man.
I learned two things from Delroy that I've never forgotten. The first thing was that a loaf of wheat bread, a jar of honey, and a jar of peanut butter was all you need to survive.
We were students back then, y'all.
We were students. And you explained to me all the nutritional value and everything. Like he was like some health nut. You know, bastard. He looks exactly the same. I mean, he looked like this 50 years ago. He looks just the same now. So get your peanut butter. The second thing I learned was our first. This is at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. Your first, what do you call not audition? Your first scene that we do is like big pressure. You're gonna now it's scene doing day, and you do the scenes and Ed Hastings and this got Bill Ball and everybody that sits there
people that ran ECT.
Analyze your stuff. And Delroy, this God's honest truth, Delroy did his scene, and they had no notes. They were like, I don't know if you remember this. They were like, well, okay. They had notes for me. They had no notes. And that was the second thing that I learned. Like I said, the first thing I learned was the nutritional value of peanut butter and stuff. The second thing I learned, which is really the first, is that there's levels to this thing called acting. I thought I was pretty good. I was, coming from undergrad, hey. But then I saw Delroy, and I was like, whoa, okay, I gotta go home and work.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm just telling the truth. I mean, so cliche, one of the finest actors, I don't know how to put it, is purity to Delroy. His discipline, his attention to detail, his spirit. And in those days, he was almost, it's like things bothered him, which I admire.
Still do.
They still do. Like, the first thing you say, Delroy, what do you think about that? And his first thing would be, he's always, but I realized, or I came to realize that he had a filter to him that he had to tell the truth. And I began to understand is that's what I was trying to figure out about his acting, is that there's a foundation and a purity and an honesty and an integrity that's undeniable. And something, and something to reach for. So, okay, enough about that, me. Everybody asks this question, but I've never done this before, so I'll ask it. How'd you get started? What made you want to become that?
I will answer that question, but on the heels of what you just said, I've told this story, what I'm about to say. I've said this in various public forums, but I've never said it in front of Denzel, in the company of Denzel. There are two things that I remember, and I will get to your question, I promise, but there are two things that I remember that always stick in my mind about Denzel and how far we go back. We stood, he and I, as students at ACT, we stood on the corner of like Leavenworth and Sutter, downtown San Francisco, and we were talking about our aspirations for our careers. We're students, right? We're young kids, and we're talking about our aspirations for our careers. And one of the things that I remember saying to you was, I don't ever want to be in competition, man. There should be space for all of us. And the fact that I've maintained that ethos is one of the reasons that I've been able to appreciate the extraordinary things that this man has done. Because to the extent that he talks about what he appreciates about me as an actor, right back at you, bro. And that's, that's been proven. And I have to say this, and this is maybe counterintuitive. That would be true, awards or no awards. That feeling, that appreciation would be true, whether you got awards or not. Let me just say one other thing. And the second thing, this was really, I was living in New York. You were in town working, and I was going through. I told this story in response to somebody asking me if I'd ever felt like I wanted to stop acting, and I have never felt like I wanted to stop acting. Okay, but there was a period in New York where I was kind of New Yorked out. I was up the hill with New York City. And I was walking up Fifth Avenue, actually walking down Fifth Avenue, and there's hordes of people coming at me, and I gotta get out of here. You were doing something in the park, I believe. We connected, and I was telling Denzel about the frustrations I was having at the time, and one of the things I said, well, man, D, I gotta get out of here, man. And this man, and I've said this before, and I'll say it to you right now, this man said to me, D, don't leave, man. Don't leave. You're too good. You're too good. This will turn around for you. Do not leave. And that was one of the kind of linchpins at that particular point in my career that I got some encouragement from a friend. And it was the difference between, I don't remember what my next job was, but the point was, I hung in there. And part of the reason that I hung in was based on what you told me. So any actors in the room, no matter what, creatives, hang in, no matter what's happening, hang in. To your question, Denzel, to your question, how I got started.
Before you answer that, there is a nominal fee for that advice.
I'm gonna write you a check, man. It's gonna be in the mail. So I've told this story kind of sort of countless times at this point, and people may have heard this. I was, as a 5-year-old, I was in the nativity play in my elementary school. And that's when I got the bug. Now, truly, that's the true story, but I have to...
Who did you play?
Black King, what you think I played? No, I played one of the kings is a black man. I played, I think, Balthazar, I think. I played one of the kings, we three kings of war, 5 years old. But the interesting thing about that experience was, when I've thought about this, it had to do with the affirmation that I got from the teacher who was directing the play. I've told this story before, I will tell it again. The young man who was playing King Herod in the Christmas thing, his name was Michael Penny. And Michael Penny, and we had our lines on these little pieces of cardboard. We would rehearse, and Michael Penny could not he couldn't remember his lines. And at a certain point in the rehearsal process, the teacher had said, watch Delroy. I'm 5 years old, right? And she said to Michael Penny, watch him, the way he, she didn't say projects, I don't remember but the way I was pronouncing, and she said his bearing, the way he carries himself. And I believe, and I went to all white schools, okay? I was born in England, my family's Jamaican. So I was literally the only black student in a all-white school. And I believe that piece of, her affirming me like that, it had nothing to do with being seen. She affirmed me in a way that I needed at that time, and that was the bug. That's how I got started. That's when it started.
What made you want to quit? No, I'm serious.
No, fair enough. one gets tired of hearing, no, we don't want you, we want somebody else. Right? Hello. You just get tired of being rejected, right? Now, the moment that I just articulated, I think there were a number of things going on. I wasn't working at the time. Any of us who have spent any time in New York City, you know that New York City can be very overwhelming. I'm living uptown in a rent-controlled apartment. You know, I'm paying $250 a month. And I think I was just momentarily overwhelmed by everything. It was just too much. And I think that I can't necessarily put it down to one particular thing, but I would say that in general, I was just overwhelmed. And at that, it just felt like, you know what, I got it. And it wasn't that I wanted to quit, it was, I need a break from this. That's what it was.
What was the longest period that you didn't get?
Oh, man. Okay, so, Denzel left ACT. You left
After the first year.
After the first year. I stayed for a second year. I go back to New York. My first gig in New York, 6 weeks I had been in New York. And I got hired to understudy at the Public Theater, the New York Shakespeare Festival, in a play called Spell Number 7. Yeah. Ntozake Shange, we all know her, or many of us know her from For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide, The Rainbow Isn't Enough. I got cast to understudy in Spell Number 7. In that company was Avery Brooks, Sam Jackson, LaTanya Jackson.
I was a replacement.
And you were a replacement, that's right. So, so I get that gig after 6 weeks of being in New York. I then get my next gig to be part of the inaugural company in the Denver Center Theater Company. So I'll go out to Denver for 2.5 months. I come back to New York, nothing. Nothing. And when you, again, for the creatives in the room, I thought the world had come to an end. It ended up being 8 months, but I couldn't buy a job. I worked as a counselor with in a facility for with young people who were I don't know what the PC term is, developmentally disabled. I took classes at NYU, but the point is, I thought that the world had come to an end. I thought it was over. Finally, I got a job, but it was 8 months. That's the longest I've ever been without work.
So when did you say, yeah, I can do this, I'm good?
Okay, you know what?
The next week after that?
No, there are these instances, and I gotta say, for me, I put it down to God. Okay, I put it down to God. Amen. So I'll tell you a little story really quickly. And I haven't, there were a couple. I had a little 1968 VW Bug, right, blue. And I parked my car on Park Avenue. I was going to some appointment. And a bicycle messenger, a brother on a bike, he passed me. And then he did a double take, and he came back. And he said, hey man, you're an actor, right? I said, yeah. He said, I done seen you in a couple movies, right? I said, yeah. He said, you know what I like about you in the movies, man? Don't nobody ever fuck with you in the movies, man.
Kind of like life too, man.
I took that, and then he went on about his business. For me, that was a message from God. That was an affirmation. Another time, you guys remember, or many of you in the room remember, L.A. Law.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Blair Underwood, L.A. Law, right? And L.A. Law had been on the air for probably a few seasons, and they were recasting. They were recasting some of the actors. Blair was still on it, I got a call to go on audition for LA Law. And I'm thinking, I don't look like Blair Underwood, they're not gonna hire me. Anyhow, the part that I was auditioning for was a lawyer who was, one of the descriptions was, he never stopped moving. His relationship to the earth was very uncertain, and he just kept moving. The night before my audition, I had this thought. I put rocks in my shoes. I put little pebbles in my shoes so that I would physically be uncomfortable. I go in, I do the audition, and I did a good audition, but I knew I was not going to get the part. And I didn't get the part. But I felt like I had done everything I could in the room. I showed them what I could do. And I had these rocks in my shoes. I leave the audition. I feel like, okay, I did as much as I could do. I knew I was not going to get the part. I didn't get the part. I'm walking down 6th Avenue. I stop at a light. It's a true story. A brother in a vehicle, I don't know if he was a cab driver, I don't remember. He pulled up, the light changed, he stopped, I was about to cross the street. He says, hey, man, I done seen you on TV, right? I said, yeah, I've done a couple things. He said, man, this is a true story, y'all. He said, man, I don't know what's happening with your career, but you're good, man. Keep at it. That was God. That was God. And the third thing I'll tell you, and then I'll shut up. The third thing, I was on Edgecombe Avenue, uptown New York. I'm on Edgecombe Avenue. I'm driving my car, I stop at the light, 3 brothers cross the street in front of me. And these 3 dudes walking across the street in front of my car. The one dude does a double take. And he says, hey man, we're proud of you, man. Those kinds of affirmations let me know I'm doing something right. Whether I'm working or not working, broadly speaking, I'm doing something that's right. That's touching people, that's touching audiences, that's touching the people who come to see the work.
Ryan Coogan, talk to us about that collaboration and how it all got started.
Man, so Ryan and I live very close to each other in Oakland, California. We live 15 minutes apart. I'd see him around. He sent me this random text. Do you play piano? He texted me, do you play piano? I say, no, man, but I did this film called Crooklyn, and I did a lot of practicing on the keyboard for that film. I didn't hear anything. Maybe a month and a half later, he texted me again, something random. So finally, we exchanged 2 or 3 texts back and forth. Finally, I said, look here, man, what's this about, man? Why you bothering me, man? What's up? He said, I got this project I want you to do. He sends me the script. I read it, and from the very first time I read the script, I had this sense that, okay, is there anybody in the house who has not seen Sinners? Raise your hand if you have not seen Sinners. There's one down here. Who else? One. You got to leave, sis. You got to go. All right. So what I knew from reading the script was that he was using the genre to tell a much larger story. In my opinion, it is not a horror film. I mean, there are horrific components, but he's telling a much larger story, and I saw that when I read the very first time I read the script. So I sent him an email. I said, look, man, I think I see what you're doing here. Are you doing da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And he wrote me back and said, yeah, you got it. And the second thing I said was, you introduce Delta Slim so brilliantly, those first 2 scenes, and it falls off in the second act, Ryan. And he said to me, I hear you, and we will work on that. So your question, what is it like working with Ryan? He's incredibly collaborative. He was very open, not just with me, with all of us. And I'm talking cast and crew. He's an incredibly collaborative spirit. And that was from the very first time I read the script all the way through when we wrapped the film. Collaborate, collaborative, collaborative, collaborative. And he has a very, very open spirit. He genuinely wants to hear what everybody has to contribute. Now, he may not use it, but he wants to hear what you have to say, and he values that. So he's just a very collaborative spirit.
What's that other black guy?
Man.
That last name Lee.
Similarly, yeah. I mean,
You did 5? 4.
I've done 4. I kind of sort of, and I felt like you had something to do with this. I don't know if you remember when I auditioned for Malcolm X, we read together. I had done this audition in Los Angeles just for a casting person. And then I came back to New York, and you and I read together. Spike offered me the part. I always feel like you maybe had something to do with this. But Spike trusted me. He had a regard for me as an actor. And as a result of his trust for me, there's just an openness. The lines of communication are open. That final scene in Malcolm X, when you come visit me in the SRO.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, you do.
I haven't seen that movie since.
Neither have I. But Malcolm comes to visit my character, West Indian Archie, in the room. And
when you down and out.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. And in the script, the description of my character, West Indian Archie, was West Indian Archie is near death. And I said to Spike,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I said to Spike, what, man? What does that mean? He said, man, I don't know. You work on it. But listen, he was exhibiting a trust in me. He knew that I would come up with something. I decided that the character had a stroke. And the reason I decided stroke was it will enable me to work on a physical disability, but still be able to talk and still be able to do the same. So I went to Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn. They have a ward there specifically geared to people who are recovering from stroke. And I just stood in the corner and I just watched. And I went there maybe 3 or 4 times before we started production. You guys were shooting already. I hadn't started filming yet. And I just watched. And so I picked up I just started to kind of get it in my body how I wanted to approach this condition of having a stroke. There was one gentleman on the ward, and he had this thing that he did. I didn't copy it, but I kind of translated what I saw him doing when I did this thing.
Right.
And I came up with that. So by the time we were ready to shoot the scene, I was ready to work. Now, Preston Holmes, producer, you and Angela were doing the scene in the History Museum. And the scene...
Walking around and stuff?
Yes. And the scene ran long. And one of the producers came to me and said, man, we can't do the scene with you and Denzel. We're going to have to reschedule that. And I said, man, I can't. I was scheduled to go to Los Angeles to do a reshoot on something else. I said, I can't, man. It's now 2:30 in the morning. We have to move production downtown to this SRO to shoot this scene. By the time we get down there, it's like 4 in the morning. Jaws were tight, y'all. They were mad at me. Not Denzel, Spike, Preston. They were tight. So I'm in character, right?
Sounds like you needed to be too. Get some sympathy.
So I'm working on this physical condition, which is causing me to move very slowly. I get a knock on my camper. We're ready for the scene. We're ready. And I get up and I'm walking to set. And I'm not trying to cause a problem. I'm trying to just connect with the work. Jaws were tight, y'all. Get your ass on the set. So Denzel and I started to work. And I found this out after the fact. Spike was like, what is he doing? Ernest Dickerson said, leave him alone.
The DP.
The DP, director, because he was seeing. Cinematographer. And when Denzel and I started to work, well, you see the scene. It's one of the pieces of work I'm most proud of. The whole film, but certainly that scene. But to your point, ultimately, Spike left me alone, and he allowed us to do the work. And Spike and Ryan have that in common in terms of my experience working with them, and that is an openness and a trust that they have in me, and allow as long as I'm serving the story, obviously, but there's that trust and there's that regard that we experience when we're working together.
All right, I'll get to sentence, but what have you not done that you would like to do? What areas would you?
Well, I always said I really wanted to play a Marcus Garvey type character. Yeah. Marcus Garvey, starting the UNIA in the teens, in the early 1900s. I would have loved to have played a Marcus Garvey type character in film. So your next film that you direct, you heard it here first.
Well, here's something you've probably heard before in your career. Well, Delroy, we're going in another direction.
Yes, I've heard that a few times.
No, we love you, but we're going to go in another direction.
Can I say something, man? You go ahead.
Well, what I wrote down was, how did you prepare? But you kind of told me. Musically, how did you prepare?
Great question, and it was one of the richest parts of this experience for me. First of all, Ryan sent me 2 books. He sent me Blues People by Amiri Baraka, who at the time he wrote the book was known as Leroy Jones. And he sent me Blues People, and it was Deep Blues by a man named Robert Palmer. I read those books twice, all about not just specific musicians, but I got an insight into the lives, the lifestyles, who these men were away from the music. So I read those books twice. Then I just submerged myself, Denzel, in the music. Cats like Son House, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Ike Turner, and I know Ike has a bad rap, but he was a brilliant musician. I looked at a lot of documentaries, watching not only these performers in their element with the music, but also you start to glean, you start to get a sense of just rhythmically. And I just submerged myself in that music. And I submerged myself in just watching the way they move, the way they talk. Looking at documentaries about people from the Mississippi Delta, just exposing myself to that culture and hoping that if nothing else, things would kind of rub off on me by osmosis. And one of the most rewarding scenes in the film, the scene in the car, where I'm telling the story about my man Rice being lynched, and what happened at the very end of the scene when I kind of went into the hollow, and how audiences have said to me over and over and over again that in that moment they're seeing where the blues comes from. And that is, man, that's why I went to acting school, y'all. That's for those kinds of affirmations from audiences.
Studio kind of question. But this is interesting. Ryan said that the film was about exploring the price of freedom.
So one of the things that struck me first reading the script, and I had a very visceral response to this, because what I thought I was seeing in the script was the result of this self-sustaining, not without pain, but a community that is self-sustaining. And what I saw when that community gets infiltrated, we see the result of what happens when this community gets infiltrated. This.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
When we've all seen it except you. So you know what you got to do, right? When the vampires show up and they identify Sammy and the gift that he has, and the guy says, just give me Sammy. Just give me Sammy and I'll leave y'all alone. This is not a community that is without pain, but it's self-sustaining. And one of the brilliant components in the film with Ryan as writer, he takes, 40 minutes to establish each of the main characters in their element before the vampires show up. So in doing that, he's establishing this is this person in their element. This is this person in their element. And he does that with all of the main characters. And then we see what happens when these outside forces come along. And indeed, what they're threatening is not only our freedom, well, very much our freedom, the vibrancy of this community. And in that sense, I believe that Sinners is a very contemporary story. And that they're the kinds of things that I discussed with Ryan, and he said, yeah, you're right on. This is what I'm trying to do. This is the story I want to tell.
What y'all want to ask? Somebody raise their hand right there. I see. Speak loud.
All right, this is more of a little story. I'll make it quick, I promise. A testament to what you said about his attention to detail. First movie I ever worked on was a movie called The Last Castle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You played Wheeler. I played Wheeler's aide. So basically, I followed you around the set for a week or so. The very first scene that I worked on was a scene where you and James Gandolfini, rest in peace, were arguing outside the prison. And then you and I get in the car and drive off. So there's no cameras in the car or anything, right? So you guys are rehearsing the scene, and I'm watching it. And it looked like you guys were having this discussion, right? So I'm thinking, man, they're kind of arguing at each other. So we do a take, we get in the car, drive off, no cameras in the car. You turn to me and go, that man's an asshole. I never had to before.
Right.
Do I?
In character.
In character.
Yes.
Well, I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know. So I'm like, oh, they're really arguing. We do another take, get in the car, drive off. Again, no cameras, nothing in the car. The director is yelled, cut, because I can hear it on the radio. You turn to me, that man's an asshole. I'm like, I got this. He's acting, even though the camera's not on. We do another take, get in the car.
All right, make this short now. You got one more take.
Denzel Washington, the director. Go ahead.
He turns to me again, he goes, that man's an asshole. I look at him, I said, yeah, you're right. He looked at me like, fool, if you don't shut up and let me do my work. So, I just wanted to tell that little story because I was so impressed that you were still doing your thing, even though there were no cameras on.
God bless you. God bless you.